Night shift. Night shift. Night shift. Night shift. Night shift. Night shift. Let's go! How y'all doing one time? Hey, welcome back to the Night Shift Radio.
How you
It's me,
doing?
Thomas Smith. Hey, what's up, Ray J? What's up, Angie? You guys ready?
I'm ready. Ready. We got some interesting guests
How you
today.
feeling, man? Good. Man, long time no see, man. It's time for us to get back cracking. Well, you know what? Hey, we got some guests today with us, man, and they have a good topic that they want to spread awareness to, and we want to help them spread that awareness out there. So if you guys don't mind lending us the ear, because we got some good stuff for you guys for this segment here. It's on fentanyl and some of the stuff that you guys can learn, get a lot of good information. We have two good people here with us that I'd like to introduce. So we'll start off, but first let's introduce the crew, and then we'll go and introduce our guests. Ray J, how you doing, Ray J?
I'm doing good today because we got something we're going to talk about that everybody needs to know and bring awareness out there to the world, to the people who sleeping on this subject.
Thank you. Angie, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty pumped. I definitely know that I've got some questions that I want answered, and these people are the right people to get them answered.
That's right, that's right. And Adam, and how you feeling, man?
Good. Ready for a conversation.
All right. Well, you know what, you guys, when now it's time to have this conversation, this podcast, man, I figure it's a very special one because I lost some people to fentanyl, and I don't think they was ready to go. I think they didn't have the information, so we dedicated ourselves to help, say, San Diego, you know what I'm saying, help us help the community. So I'd like to introduce some people here that got the information that you guys want to hear. So listen up. For your first, sir, what is your name?
My name is William Perno, and thank you for having us today.
William, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
All right. And this young lady over here.
My name is April Ella, and I'm the Director of Operations at A New Path.
How you doing, April?
I'm good, thank you so much.
And, man, it's a pleasure to have you guys, and we've been waiting for this for a second, dealing with Mary and, Marcia. We do a lot of good work with them because I do the Unity Games with, say, San Diego. We're 9 years running. So, I have a lot of respect for, say, San Diego, and anything that I can do to help them, help you guys put the message out there. We as Night Shift Radio, we're ready to help you guys out. So with that being said, William, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and tell them a little about the organization and what is it that you're trying to do?
Thank you. My name is William Perno. I'm a Senior Prevention Specialist with Say San Diego. We do alcohol and other drug prevention work with the community. I also have part of my time on a subcontract to the Harm Reduction Coalition to teach the community about fentanyl and opioids, how to recognize opioid overdoses, and how to use Naloxone to try and reverse those, and distribute Narcan for free. And I want to give a shout out to April Ella here because
April,
because April's the one that trained me on how to train others.
That's right. Hey, congratulations, April. So I hear you have a lot of vast information on this on the subject. What brought you to it?
Actually, it's a really funny story when it comes down to what brought me to it. I had no background in this at all. I've been in harm reduction work for the past 10 years. I was a fashion major in high school. My boss started her organization in 1999, but she is originally a fashion show producer, and I actually was her intern when I was in college for fashion show production, and I kind of filled in interim in between when someone had just left the organization just to kind of help out. And then that was in 2014 when we started the Narcan distribution program. So we just had passed the Naloxone access bill in California in 2014. And then we started up the Naloxone distribution program in San Diego, and we coaxed the county to make sure that they took charge of this, that we were allowed to do this and go forth and train people. And I didn't think it was for me yet. And then we did our first training in about, I don't know, a couple weeks
What do you
later.
train them in?
Naloxone and how to use it. And so it's a opioid overdose reversal drug. It's very safe. It's effective. But the reason I actually got into it in that interim time was that first training, a mother had come back and said, she knocked on the door of the office and she said, without you, April, specifically to me, and I didn't think I deserved that credit, that their child would not have been alive because they were able to take the Narcan home from that training. And since then, I quit fashion, and I was like, this is my life's purpose now, is to make sure that we, try to reverse the effects of the drug war, which is, it's not going to happen anytime soon, at least in the time I've been doing it. But we're chipping away.
You're making differences in people's lives and providing help where you can.
Absolutely, and that's what we try to do, and we do together as a community, and we all kind of go hand in hand together.
So is the technology the same as it was 10 years ago, or is it more vast, or you see there's more improvement?
It's way more vast. It's definitely more improved, because when we first started doing Narcan trainings, Naloxone trainings, we were teaching people with oranges and syringes, and a lot of people have, aversions to needles. So, we trying to convince people to take needles home with little drawback vials of Narcan was really hard. So it was few and far between when it came to the first trainings. So fortunately, but unfortunately, Narcan is now in this like nasal formulation, which it's like Flonase. So it has been streamlined, which, like I said, is fortunate for people to be able to carry it, but unfortunate that we're even in the circumstance when it comes to the opioid epidemic that we have to get to this point that it's streamlined.
I have another question. So,
Sure.
Is it expensive? Because, most people that get in this situation, they don't want to take this stuff because they think it's expensive. They don't be bothered with it because it's too expensive.
Sure. That's like a 10-day topic for me when it comes to big pharma and people capitalizing on things like selling Narcan and Naloxone. Narcan's the brand name. You're going to hear that more than you're going to hear Naloxone. But right now it's available for about $49.99. It's like $50. $45, almost $50.
To save a life, $45
to save a life. But you go to community organizations like A New Path, Say San Diego, Harm Reduction Coalition of San Diego. We have, there's so many organizations that now do this. Right. We also onboard more organizations to be able to have their own distribution program. So it's not just us, but that's free.
You can also go to a county regional public health center. There's several of those throughout the county, and into a sheriff's station and get Narcan for free as well.
Okay. I have too many questions, but my next question is: so, have you guys thought about passing out, like people pass out needles for heroin? Is it something like that in the exchange system, exchange thing, or how they do it?
They have access to that. So we have 2 needle exchange programs in San Diego County, one run through Harm Reduction Coalition of San Diego, which Bill and I are both subcontracted under for a county widespread Naloxone access grant. And they do it, and they are a mobile syringe service, so people can access clean syringes for use of injectable drugs. But then they also have access to Narcan with her delivery service as well. Okay. And then, but the San Diego, Family Health Centers of San Diego has the long-standing syringe service program, which runs on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So they have that as well. So you can access Naloxone, clean needles, cookers, clean pipes to stop the spread of disease, along with other kinds of harm reduction.
So do you guys do like this with like a lot of the homeless population?
Yes.
Okay.
So I know Say San Diego works a lot with youth. We also work, we do a lot of street outreach, Harm Reduction Coalition of San Diego. You'll hear me talking about that a lot. Tara was supposed to be here today. So I know we worked together for a lot of years, so I know a lot of what they do as well. So we do outreach to the unsheltered population for ourselves, at least with A New Path. We do it 3 times a week, and we're trying to expand on that, just trying to see where all the encampments are. So we're in South Bay, North County, and East County predominantly right now for our program.
What are the days and the times that people can...
you can see that on our Instagram and our website. Our Instagram is New Path Narcan Project, and our website is anewpath.org, and it has our NAP sites, which means Naloxone access points.
That's right.
So it tells you which days and times that we go out into the community or have a standing location that people can just come collect.
And there's also a number of vending machines that are out in the county where
16 or 18,
you can
I
take an online training and you can
Okay.
get a code, go to the vending machine and get the Narcan and other supplies dispensed out of that machine.
Okay.
Some of them have the ability to train you at the machine itself.
Okay. I mean, is it
That's
like
great.
AI type stuff?
No, it's like
Not AI.
I can think of an iPad on the front of the
Okay,
machine,
okay,
or something
okay.
like a tablet that will walk you through a video. We could train you very quickly.
Okay,
April
okay.
is, like I said, the Zen
Master.
master, the master there. So, but we could train someone in 30 seconds if we had to.
If we had to.
Not to be
Narcan's that simple to use.
not to be too funny, but if you're too high, you can't go through all those technicalities, right? So you have to be a sober person to be able to do
No,
this.
the
or-
Narcan's as simple as I'm holding a device in my hand. If a
So
person,
if you high and you because my main thing is for the listeners out there. So
Yeah.
this is for the person. This Narcan thing is for the person who's going to help someone who OD, not for the person who OD, because you can't really
You can't technically save yourself.
save yourself.
you're going to be
because you're
unconscious probably.
overdosing,
You may be unconscious, not breathing, and you're not going to be able to move your arm.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how I was thinking. If they hand them out like needles, maybe they have one in their pockets. So if a friend would help them, they'd be able to have access to it or something.
So that brings me to my first question. So then how is it that someone recognizes that someone is ODing from fentanyl?
You or me, Bill? So if someone's overdosing from fentanyl or any other opioid, which would be heroin, oxycodone, morphine, other prescription painkillers like Vicodin or Percocet, they're all going to have the same kind of relative symptoms, right? So the person's not breathing is really what it comes down to. At the very end of it, the person's not breathing. But other symptoms would be like pale, clammy skin. They could be sweaty, ashy gray. They could have blue lips or fingertips because they're not breathing. They're not getting oxygen to the rest of the body. They could have passed out, choking, gurgling sounds. They call that the death rattle on the street because it's such a loud snoring noise. There's a lot of symptoms that you can see when it comes to a person that is overdosing from an opioid specifically. But the best part about this that I want to highlight, because a lot of people get scared, we brought that up already, that they don't want to have it with them. They're afraid to use it. The best thing about Narcan is if you inject somebody who's having any other kind of medical emergency, heart attack, stroke, epilepsy, if they were having a different kind of drug overdose or drug overamping, like if they were on meth and they were overamping and, instead of just opioids, this will not hurt them. So it's like water because it needs an opioid to attack for it to work. So it's not anything that anyone should be scared of.
And so we have both the nasal spray and injectable forms, intermuscular, of Naloxone or Narcan. We're distributing mainly the nasal spray through Say San Diego, and it's as simple as the device I'm holding in my hand, the part that's sticking up above my fingertips, goes into the person's nostril. Once its fingertips touching the bottom of the nostril, one dose of medication in the device, one good firm press. It's going to deliver that dose of medication as a nasal spray, leave it in the nostril for about 5 seconds. Then you can safely discard this device. What will happen then is the medications can be absorbed into the tissue, go into the bloodstream, and go to our brain where the opioid receptors are. And those opioid receptors is what the opioid medications or drugs are attaching to, and that's what can slow and stop a person's breathing. So what happens is it depresses that part of the brain, and the breathing becomes slow, erratic, or completely stops. And that's how opioids kill. They're a respiratory depressant. So an adult should be breathing about once every 5 seconds. Children breathe faster about once every 3 seconds. So as that drug is shutting down the breathing, we don't have to tell ourselves to breathe. Our body does that for us. So this body's fighting for life. That's why you're hearing all those signs. You're seeing those symptoms of lack of oxygen. And there's one other thing we can try. The person may be unresponsive, unconscious, look like they're in a deep sleep. We can't wake them up. We can shake their shoulder, tap their foot, pinch them. And then there's the sternum rub. So I want you to try this on yourself. Take your hand and make a fist with me. Take those knuckles, stick them right in the middle of your chest. Press in hard and rub up and down. Really hard like you mean it. It's going to hurt.
Oh, I don't hurt myself.
It's a pain stimuli. So that's how we
To
can
get your
check to
attention,
see if a
basically, yeah.
person might just be high, might be on the nod, might be under the influence, but we'll see some type of movement from them. But remember, opioids take away pain. They can induce anesthesia for surgery. If we're not seeing any movement, we see the signs and symptoms that April talked about. You're looking at an opioid overdose. So now time's really important. We want that 911 call. Want to use that Naloxone, Narcan if you have it.
Okay.
We want to begin CPR if the person's not breathing. So I highly encourage people to learn that skill, CPR, rescue breathing, or chest-only compressions. Stay with that person. There's a law that will protect people when they call 911. If they're making that 911 call and the person that they're with is having an opioid overdose, they can be high, they can have drugs for personal use, they They can have drug paraphernalia, needle, syringe, pipe,
Oh,
whatever it
that's
is.
so-
And as long as they're calling 911 and helping that person, staying with that person, doing
Yeah, I mean,
CPR, doing
yeah.
Narcan, there's a law that will protect the people. It protects the person overdosing, as well as one or more other people at that scene that are helping with that overdose.
Yeah, because I know a lot of street people, they fear the cops. You mean, and
Yeah.
they're like, I want to help you, but I'm not trying to go to jail behind you.
So
You
that's
know
a
what I'm saying?
big
So that
thing.
basically, you guys give them like some kind of immunity or something.
It's like an immunity. So the thing with the Good Samaritan law is that it doesn't trigger unless you call 911. There's no guarantee that you'll be protected if you don't call 911.
Exactly.
A
It's
lot of
something
people-
that you have to do in order for that to happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
and so the
thank you.
big thing with
Clarify.
that is I do want to address, because listeners can be all over the spectrum here when it
Exactly.
comes to drug use, is that no matter your political preference, because there's going to be a lot of that too, or even if you had run in yourself, like say I had a felony warrant out for my arrest, correct? You're going to be scared to call 911. For me, myself, as the rescuer, if someone was trying to, I was trying to save someone's life and I was worried about the cops coming with that ambulance when you call 911, my biggest suggestion, and it's not that I enjoy making this suggestion, but it's out
going.
there just to make sure
Well,
people of
yeah.
different backgrounds, whoever it might be, have a way to make sure they still
Exactly.
rescue someone and not run away.
But
Because
you know what? And what you're doing is paramount. You mean, because I mean it's the best. Why? Because you have those people that's going to be with them. They're going to be fucked up. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Birds of a feather, they flock together.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you guys saying that, you know what, if you guys are trying to help, whatever you guys are doing, don't be scared.
Yeah, don't.
Because that's the problem with,
You
I
lose
know a lot of
people.
people, yes, they drop them off at the hospital and pull off.
yeah, and that's a
know?
big thing too. And so it's just I want to address that just because there are going to be people obviously who are like super ACAB and they're going to be like, no, I'll never call 911. I don't want cops. I don't want ambulance. I
Exactly.
don't want the feds. Anybody coming to come find me when I'm doing this, when I know I've been doing drugs for a long period of time. We do still encourage them to call 911, absolutely, because that's what triggers the response. But if they really are uncomfortable, which there will be people who are going to be
Exactly.
uncomfortable calling it, call 911. I just dropped the Narcan on the floor. Call 911 and do the whole process. And as soon as you hear those sirens or see the sirens, then take off, because then then they're going to be saved from that
Exactly,
point. So we
exactly.
encourage that 911 call, whether you're ACAB or not. You know what I mean? Like, so you want to come in there and you want to make sure you're protecting them from start to finish.
Exactly.
So if you yourself don't want to be there, then take off when
And
they're
that's
there.
and hold on, and that's society's way of giving them an incentive,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And we have to understand, if a person stops breathing, brain cells start dying in 4 to
Exactly.
6 minutes. We can't get those back medically. That's where that CPR skill is so invaluable, or chest-only compressions. But the breathing and chest compressions, we've got CPR masks. So you're not exchanging air with the person. You got a barrier over their face.
Okay.
If the person stopped breathing completely, by 10 minutes, they can be dead.
They can
So
be dead.
making that 911 call immediately is so important.
Helps 'em.
Get those first responders. The paramedics got all kinds of other life-saving equipment on that rig, in addition to Narcan for these other types of drug overdoses. Because as April said, Narcan's only going to work on an opioid overdose.
Yeah, it
It's
doesn't
not going to work on other types of drugs. Benzodiazepine, it won't work on.
Yeah.
That's a different type of drug. It's not going to work on, let's say, someone that's suffering from alcohol poisoning.
Exactly.
Or
Heart
other types of
attack,
drugs.
anything.
Heart attacks, methamphetamine,
Exactly.
cocaine.
So calling
stimulant drugs.
911 triggers the whole.
But this is why we're doing the fentanyl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're labeling it. Okay, if you're not dealing with fentanyl, you can't deal with this.
Then this brings
in
me
the
to my
other
next
area.
question. How is it that we can? What is it hiding in? Like what?
Everything.
what
Bill, take
specifically-
that one. He's the pro on that one.
Fentanyl's hiding in everything. So this is what people, may not understand, is that the drug dealers are adding fentanyl to all these street drugs because it will boost the high, the euphoric effect, and it's a highly addictive drug. You can't see it, smell it, or taste it, so you're not going to know it's there. So you're taking a drug that maybe, let's say you're using cocaine or methamphetamine, a stimulant drug, the opposite of an opioid, but you don't realize the fentanyl's been added to that, and you die from the fentanyl that was in the cocaine or methamphetamine that you had no idea that was there. Go ahead, Ray.
No, I was gonna say that. My question was, because I have two things. The first thing is, I want to know if you're a parent and you washing your kids' clothes and they got fentanyl in their clothes and you don't know it and you touch it, do you automatically get sick from that? Because I think
No.
that's a myth.
That's
It
a
is.
myth.
That's
It is-
most people
it's
have.
been debunked
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
So the biggest thing I want everyone that's listening to this is that fentanyl is absolutely dangerous and it is super scary and you should be super fucking scared of it. But like the thing with it is if you touch it, if you come into contact with it, if you're at a scene, you see something on someone's face, if you see some like powder on their clothes or an unknown liquid near them, you accidentally touch it. Best thing about fentanyl is you could just wash your hands with soap and water. Like it's not, it's ingestion that's going to make you as the person who's going to potentially overdose.
Exactly.
You have to take it in. So that's like my analogy that I always like to use when it comes to post-rescue of somebody. If I was to touch fentanyl that was on a table, I knew that I touched something. I maybe used alcohol wipes or hand sanitizer, but did not wash my hands yet. I love hot Cheetos. This is my favorite thing to talk about. I love hot Cheetos. What do you do when you're done eating hot Cheetos? You lick your fingers, right? I did not wash my hands after that overdose, and then I went and licked my fingers. There's residue of fentanyl on my hands because I did not wash them. Ingestion is how you would secondhand overdose if you want to put it that way. You have to ingest it.
How much?
Contacts. 2 milligrams is a lethal dose.
So let me put that in perspective for you. 2 milligrams is a lethal dose for an adult-sized person with no tolerance to opioids. It's by weight, so it's going to be less for a child, a toddler, an infant. What do little bit kids do when they're crawling around? They put everything in their mouth.
Exactly.
So one sugar packet here. Regular sugar packet for your coffee or tea. This is just sugar. It's only half full. If this was fentanyl, and it's not, it's sugar, but if this was fentanyl, how many people do you think this would be capable of killing?
Exactly.
6,
Okay.
12.
Angie?
Maybe 20.
Adam?
It's got to be closer to like 100.
Yeah.
Thomas?
I'm gonna say 50. 50.
Not even close.
Uh-oh.
This is 2.83 grams. That's 2,830 milligrams. 2 milligrams, the lethal
person?
amount. Divide that by 2, that's 1,415 people from just the amount of fentanyl that would be in a sugar packet. And this packet's not even full. It's only half full of sugar. The rest is just empty packaging. That's the power of how powerful this
crazy.
drug is. It's 30 to 50 times stronger than heroin, 100 times stronger than morphine. And again, it's in all these street drugs. And
Exactly. You know
for
what?
our youth, we want to talk about the pills.
How I get on the streets. And to touch the other thing is because I have a friend that called me and was like, you won't believe what happened. Like, what happened? Like, my brother died. I'm like, what happened? She's like, he went to someone, because he's a rapper, he went to someone and got a Valium and took the Valium, went to go order him some food and died in the line, fell dead in the line while he was ordering his food.
Because it was counterfeit press pill, a Valium.
Yeah. So where you get your pills matters from. We're not saying no to prescription drugs, but gone are the days of sharing pills. If you're getting pills from somewhere off the streets, from a friend, from at a hangout, a kickback, a party, on a school campus, on a college campus, might be your best friend, but you don't know where those pills came from. So prescribed for you, you need to pick it up from an actual pharmacy. That's the only way you're going to know for sure it's a real pharmaceutical pill, because these counterfeit pills, these pressed pills, they're going to look exactly like what's coming from the pharmacy.
Yeah, you can't tell.
The fake's so
I can't even
convincing.
tell.
Law enforcement, crime lab, the pharmacists oftentimes can't tell the difference between the real pills and the fake pills until they test them with that CSI-like equipment that they got in the lab. So it looks like it's real, but it's not. And this is, right now, 70% of the pills on the streets that are being sold, 7 out of 10 have the 2 milligrams or more of fentanyl in them, enough to cause that fatal overdose. They're all going to be fake, but 70% of them are having a fentanyl that kills somebody. That's what we need our community to understand, because, see, for our youth, they don't understand that risk. We have a California Healthy Kids survey that's given to students in 7th grade, 9th grade, 11th grade. A few years ago, in 2018, we had a special question added to that survey by our County Office of Education. They did a great job. It's a county custom module. And they asked a question about real opioid pain medications coming from a pharmacy, the real ones. Our youth weren't alive during the first wave of our opioid epidemic, which was the late 1990s. 250,000 people died from real opioid pain prescriptions. Millions more overdosed and addicted to them. But this question asks our youth, the real pills, how much should people risk harming themselves if they're taking drugs like oxycodone, Vicodin, Percocet without a doctor's order, so it's not prescribed for them, and with the intent to get high? Why we need to be talking to youth is because a large percentage of our 9th graders, 11th graders, and non-traditional students saw no harm in doing that. That's a problem, because they don't understand the perception of harm. Our kids grow up, they get sick, they go to the doctor, they get an antibiotic, they take a pill, feel better. Some of our youth mistakenly believe that if it came from a pharmacy, you can't overdose and die. And that's not true. They weren't alive then, but this is the risk that they need to understand. So we're about educating, making them aware, and they're the first generation growing up with a drug it's in all these street drugs as deadly as
No,
fentanyl.
you know what? But the sad thing is, I mean, I have some friends that are they're still out on the street. They still do their thing, and they don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? It's
People
like
are actually using fentanyl. There's no heroin left on the street
exactly.
now.
It's
You
like,
can't
it's like,
find heroin.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like back when those heroin, back in those days, the stuff that was killing people, that's what everybody ran to.
Yeah.
And now this stuff
It's
is
the
killing
same thing.
people, and it's
People are
like,
still using fentanyl, even
Yeah.
though it's deadly. People obviously have built up a tolerance to it. When it comes down to it, people are going to still use it because they're chasing that high. Also, when it comes to fentanyl versus heroin, it's going to be easier for somebody in a clandestine lab, to be making fentanyl versus like going to a native poppy plant and having to harvest a poppy plant to make heroin, which in its natural cut form is a nice natural formation of it versus something that's made in a lab way easier when you're able to just find the ingredients and be able to make that,
exactly.
So I might be a little dumb here, but what's the difference between fentanyl and meth?
Yeah. So what are the exact
Methamphetamine.
Yeah, because it seems like they kind of go together, or they're like.
People like to put them together, yes, absolutely, but they're completely different things, obviously, because fentanyl is a opioid. Methamphetamine is technically like an upper, you know what I mean? So this is something that you would use. A lot of people will be using methamphetamine to just kind of get like a different kind of high. It's like, speed, you know what I mean? Like, so it's something that brings you up. Opioids bring you down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure people also understand that sometimes people might mistakenly believe that if they're concerned about fentanyl, which is a central nervous system depressant, a narcotic, they might think that they can counterbalance that by using
An
cocaine or
upper.
methamphetamine,
Yeah.
an upper or a stimulant.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
So it'll be like a speedball.
It doesn't work that way. So fentanyl works on a different part of the brain. The opioids work on a different part of the brain that controls our breathing. Stimulant drugs like cocaine and methamphetamine don't affect that part of the brain. So they're actually increasing the risks for that fatal overdose there.
And as a kid, you have no idea what this is about. You probably don't even take a biology class or nothing like that. You just going with the flow.
This varies from everybody, but we're at a new path, and myself as well as my boss and the rest of our team, we're there because we're all harm reductionists, right? And so we advocate for therapeutic rather than punitive drug policy. That is our main goal. That's what we did before the Narcan program, was change laws, and we were involved in a lot of laws like Prop 36, 47, and we helped legalize weed in California. So that was our big initiatives, right? Along with these initiatives comes education, and there's a lack of education when it comes to being in schools. We like to push safety first drug education personally at A New Path, which means we want the kids to know what is out there and what happens if that choice does come to you. Somebody hands you something. What do you normally learn in school, right? It's like Red Ribbon Week, just say no, dare, mad, all of
Smoking
those
the bear.
things. Yeah. Oh my God, like chasing the dragon, all of those things, right? Which is not that they're not educational in themselves, but when it comes to like the internet now and the access that all these kids have to everything, and it's not about blaming social media or anything like that. It's just that there's no more mystery, right? You know what I
Easy
mean? But they're
access.
still not learning anything. So there's like, there's no mystery. They heard about it. They know about it.
There's more or less play at your own risk.
Yeah. Play at your own risk. Like, you know what you're doing, you know what you're getting yourself into, but we're not addressing that from the start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're just calling and telling them, just say no. Obviously, abstinence-based is going to be the best way to make sure you don't die from anything, sex, from drugs, from anything else, so.
But I think a lot of kids these days and the ones that be on those suicidal things and use drugs and stuff like that, they're experimenting at their own risk, and they don't even understand the Russian roulette part of it.
No.
Because like I said, I work with kids, and
They think they're
I see so many
superheroes.
facets of the way the kids go out and search for drugs and come back and steady want to be high. And
Yeah.
don't think that they supposed to come down. And that's just the weirdest thing to me these days. The kids just don't think they supposed to come down. They just stay high.
Over and over when
But you know what?
repetitive use.
Yeah, but that's why I always tell people, I say, man, you know what goes up must come down.
Absolutely.
You understand? What goes up must come down. And I always teach classes to the youth. I always tell them, I say, man, when you get high, you may go up, but where are you going to land?
Yeah.
In jail? You wake up in jail, that's traumatic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You going to wake up in a hospital, or you can wake up,
That's traumatic too.
you know what I'm saying?
Or you could not wake up.
homeless.
Or you cannot wake up.
at all.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we understand there is a wide degree between life and death here. So some people are surviving their overdose but the lack of oxygen to their brain, to their central nervous system, they're no longer the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're maybe now in a vegetative state. They're in a coma. They just never came back, or their quality of life has forever changed. We have a parent here who's been for years, the Hope Together Foundation with Sherry Rubin. She talks about her son Aaron, who overdosed on real oxycodone from a pharmacy before that overdose protection law was in effect, and the people that were with him delayed calling 911, and the damage to his central nervous system. Aaron survived, but he's now a quadriplegic, can no longer walk, can no longer speak.
Wow.
Can understand what you're saying and hold up one finger for yes and two for no, but someone now has to care for him all the time because of he didn't fall, he didn't get hit by a car, but just the lack of oxygen and the damage to his central nervous system. So we need to understand how important it is to call quickly. And, you know, I'm a prevention specialist, so I'm hoping that we can get out there, we can educate people.
Exactly.
I'm hoping that they're making a choice to not use substances or at least wait until they're 21 and older, preferably 25 and older when the brain's fully developed. So we have our youth going through these adolescent years between 12 and 18 where they're at high risk for a substance use disorder. We have some that might have adverse childhood experiences. They may be self-medicating, using substances instead of going through therapy or getting something from a doctor, they're getting it off the streets. And that's those high-risk pills that are out there. We have other people that might be bored or might be experimenting or might be peer pressure going on. So, you know, like you talked about, the information's out there, but there's a lot of incorrect information. So we want to get in front of kids, want to let them know what's going on. At the end of the day, though, it's going to come down to a choice.
Well, my question is this.
Consequences.
How can they get in touch with you?
They can email me. I'll give you my email address. It's wperno, that's WPERNO, at saysandiego.org. They can email me. We do presentations throughout the county. We can deliver the Narcan for free. That's $45 a box.
How much are the presentations? Do you guys charge
Absolutely
for?
free.
Free.
We're fully funded by the County of San Diego.
Yeah.
So
Free.
shout out to County Health and
Absolutely
Human,
free.
Health and Human Services Administration for providing this. So anywhere in the county, there's 6 regional alcohol and other drug providers. We have countywide initiatives, binge and underage drinking, marijuana prevention initiative that's just been renamed, the substance use prevention overdose task force. So we have all these resources that the county is providing that's available to communities. So we're fully paid for it. So is the Narcan.
I have a question. It probably, I don't want to say it's too much off subject, but it tickles me how you can see people recuperate from these drugs, and you can save someone's life, and then all of a sudden they think they're invincible, and they beat the drug, and they're immune to it. And that mentality scares me a lot because I think that's why a lot of people keep doing drugs over again, because once they feel like they done survived the initial shock or the initial scare of dying, that they're super.
Sure. I mean, that is definitely a lot of people who have substance use disorder, or somebody who's trying to chase that never-ending high that they're never going to reach, right? One thing that I want to kind of go over when it comes to that is this is also about recovery too, right? So we have prevention, we have harm reduction, and then we go into recovery. And then people who are trying to reach their recovery, whether they're still continuously using or not, they're trying to reach that high. If they keep going, they want to go to detox, they want to reach their recovery, and they want to get, they want to find it within themselves to be able to get there, right? But we also need a system that protects these people and helps these people from start to finish when they're going to detox to be able to reach that and receive that treatment over and over and over again, no matter how many times they go or if they go through it just once. There are going to be people who think they're invincible, and then there are going to be people who maybe get knocked down, or even if they don't get knocked down and just wake up one day and say, you know what? This isn't for me anymore. I'm going to check myself into detox. I'm going to go into a sober living home. I'm going to be there. The people who think they're invincible are the people who unfortunately have substance use disorder, which is a medical, it should be treated like a clinical disease. This isn't a moral choice. So you know what I mean? It's a public health problem. This isn't a criminal justice problem. It's not about morality or anything like that. So when it comes to people, when they are thinking about just chasing that never-ending high, and then they're invincible because they've been rescued, when you interview people on the street and you're working with people who have been addicted to a specific drug, especially opioids, for years and years and years, the one thing they're going to want to tell you, and you're going to hear a lot of, which is really, really sad, is that they don't want to be rescued by Narcan. So, maybe some people feel invincible after it's over, but most of the people are going to tell you they were trying to
Take themselves out.
They were trying to take themselves out. You know what I mean?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Well, hey, hold on. Hey, we're gonna take a little break here. So we're gonna slow down just a little bit. I mean, and,
Take a few callers.
Exactly, and also, when we come back in about a couple of minutes, let's talk about some of the highlighted questions that we want to ask you guys. You know what I'm saying, some stuff that they really need to know. You know what I'm saying, that I'm pretty sure you guys have all the information that they need to hear. So, like I said, hey, this is Night Shift Radio, and guess what, man? This podcast is about communication. It's about, not knowing, teaching anyone, but having a conversation that can help somebody else make it one more day. You feel me? So with that being said, hey Adam, let's take a little break real quick and then get back and have some highlighted questions.
760.
What is it?
507-4437.
Or in other words, it's 760-507-SHIFT.
Night Shift Radio podcast in your face.
Hi, Night Shift Radio. I just wanted to call in and say thank you so much for talking about the fentanyl epidemic. I feel like it's a really big problem in our community, and more people should be talking about it. So keep it up, and thank you so much.
And we're back. Hey, well, guys, hey, we had to take a little break, but then it's time to get back educational. So with this being said, we're back. William, you said you have a quiz for the people out there.
That's right. It's back to school.
Okay, well, you guys, you know what? Pay attention, listen close, and you're gonna learn something. Get them, William.
Make sure you sit in the front row.
So this is something that we show when we do community presentations. We'll show this to youth as well. And we're asking them to identify the real image. I'm going to show you two similar images. Their job is to spot the real from the fake here. So we start off easy. Everyone should recognize who's on screen there. Which one is the real B? Is it image 1 or 2?
I'm going to go with 1.
Good job. Image 2 is a wax figure. All right, and this one, next slide, it takes the kids about 2 seconds to get this one right. And I say which one's a real Nike shoe. One is real, one is fake. And if you get this wrong, we'll be checking your kicks on the break.
Exactly. Hey, 2.
2,
Yeah,
good job.
2.
Now we're going to get more serious. Percocet pill. One of those is real, one is fake with fentanyl. Can you tell the difference, and are you willing to bet your life on it?
I've never seen one of those.
I'm gonna bet my life on it.
That's an opioid pain medication there.
I've never seen one.
It's a perk.
Go with the one with the real writing, 2.
Hey, they both have the same writing.
2.
I'm going to go with number 2. I was
You can change your answer, Angie. Ray J's committed it, so stop.
Yeah.
no.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, you can't even tell.
No,
Man.
They press them almost the same.
we're looking at a Xanax tablet there. One of those is real, one is fake. Now remember, a Xanax tablet's not supposed to have any opioid drugs in it,
Yep,
but one of those
just
is
a
going to be
Xanny.
fake with fentanyl. It should have a benzodiazepine.
Number
I'm
1.
back on 2.
I guess the second one's fake.
Is it because the writing?
Good job.
The writing is because I'm looking at the writing thinking,
Yeah.
That's a little darker.
Now we're looking at a
I'm
Vicodin.
so glad I don't never mess with no pills. See, I don't.
Vicodin, which one's the real one? Is it
I
1
think
or 2?
it's
That'll
blue.
be the blue.
Yeah.
So which image is it, 1 or 2?
1.
Oh.
And
okay.
our last slide, the M30s here, the OxyContin. Which one's the real one?
Oxycontin, yeah.
The real one
Two
is,
is the real one.
yeah, number 2.
Go with 1. That blue messed me up last time. We're going with 1.
They're both fake.
Yeah, this is a
Trick
trick question. This is
question.
for the high school student that knows everything, right?
Oh, okay.
We want to make sure that that people understand there is no such thing as a pill specialist. You're not going to be able to tell the difference between the real and the fake. Remember we talked about earlier for the pharmacist, the police officer, the crime lab. They can't tell the difference either until they oftentimes test it with that CSI-like equipment in the lab. But for our youth, young adults today, that one pill can kill. And that's what they need to understand. That's what the generation growing up right now doesn't understand. And this stuff is being sold on social media. Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, right on their phones. And the dealers are going to tell them that it's real. They'll sell them as little as 1 or 2 pills, and they'll sometimes deliver it right to the home. So gone are the days of going to a sketchy part of town on your phone.
Yeah,
it'll
easy
get delivered.
access.
No more going to the ghetto, buddy.
Easy access. So, we had a young person that died in July. He went on social media. He paid $4 a piece. He bought 2 pills. He took one, and he lost his life over a pill that cost $4, less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Wow.
And that's the reality today. This is a generation that's growing up with fentanyl and all these street drugs. And remember, the other thing I want to make sure the listeners understand is for our youth, the risks are the pills. Other people may have gotten injury and were prescribed opioid pain medications and got addicted to the real pills and then are looking for these other pills because they can't get them from the doctor anymore. We've got people in the powdered forms of drugs. We're actually losing more people in San Diego County from powdered forms of drugs with fentanyl. That's your stimulants like cocaine and methamphetamine. With fentanyl, for every 1 death we're seeing from a pill now, we're seeing 3 or 4 deaths from powdered forms of drugs with fentanyl. So, and in some of the scenes, law enforcement are finding Narcan there on scene. But remember, if a person is unconscious, they can't use Narcan on themselves. So they have to teach the people around them how this works as well.
I know that. Go ahead, Angie.
So then my question is too, so how is it that people who are ordering these, pills from online, can they test them themselves at home? Are there kits to test for fentanyl?
They're fentanyl test strips. They're not 100% accurate by any means, but it is a means to find out and try versus just going in blindly. So having access to fentanyl test strips, which are also completely free. Our program, Say San Diego and A New Path, provides them, as well as a bunch of other organizations carry fentanyl test strips now too. So our favorite thing to say is test before you ingest, because aside from pills and everything, like we said, drugs are now are mixing fentanyl and lacing fentanyl into everything else. I got friends who like to party. I like to party. You know what I mean? I got friends who like to party and who want to do something else, and they want to just do cocaine, right? And I don't know if you remember last year, there was a story in Pacific Beach and Ocean Beach that 3 people went out just from doing cocaine.
Yeah.
They were obviously trying to reach that high, but then ended up having cocaine laced with fentanyl, and they weren't even trying to use fentanyl at all. So it's like, gone are the days of just,
Trying to have a good time.
yeah, I was an late 90s, early 2000s kid where I just took whatever was given to me, which was like, kind of a fantasy now at this point when you really come down to think about how the way that it's accessible, just because it's accessible online, also has so much more danger because of fentanyl now. Like, not even if you were to buy it off someone on the street, whether it's online or on the street, the real risk is that fentanyl could be laced into these things. So we like to say test before you ingest. We try to distribute at festivals. We go to music shows at venues. We're at bars. During Pride Week, we were distributing to bars at Pride Week for Narcan and fentanyl test strips, because we don't want people who are having a good time celebrating whatever it is they need to be celebrating, not stigmatizing them for using whatever substance they might be using, but being safe while they're using it, right? Like, taking the stigma out of their drug use, whether it's experimental or if they have substance use or any kind of co-occurring or opioid use disorder. That we're able to protect them, and have a way for them to test to see if something is in their substance.
And it's important to also note with the test strips, the fentanyl test strips are looking for fentanyl or an analog of fentanyl in the fentanyl family. There's about 10,000 different chemical variations of fentanyl.
Yeah.
This test strip's not going to detect them all.
No.
Wow.
There are still other types of opioids that are not fentanyl that can cause that fatal overdose that this test strip won't be able to detect, and still other types of drugs that are not even opioids that can cause that fatal overdose. So what I say along with these test strips, that if you're going to use substances despite these risks, you got to be smart about it and never use alone. And we have to qualify that now. It doesn't mean 3, 4, or 5 people get together and use substances together, because the risk is 5 people overdose and die together. So we're back to the days of the designated driver before we had Ubers and Lyft, right?
Yeah.
You had a sober person that would take you to the bar. You weren't driving the vehicle under the influence where it's a deadly weapon. So we need a sober person there now, or someone that's at least delaying their use to see what happens to the rest of the people, because the fentanyl, it's also not going to be mixed evenly into the drug supply. So it can affect people differently. And Ray J, you said something earlier. You talked about Russian roulette. Will you let's talk about that for a second here. So when we talk about Russian roulette, and I'm not condoning anyone do this, but we're talking about a revolver. Typically, holds 6 rounds. You put 1 round in the cylinder, you spin it, you close it, you point it at yourself, you point it at somebody else, you pull the trigger. Please don't try this. That's Russian roulette. With fentanyl, we are talking about chemical Russian roulette. So let's talk about this for a second now. Understand the risks. Instead of a cylinder that holds 6 rounds, we've got a cylinder now that holds 5 rounds. And we're putting 3.5 rounds into that cylinder. So you got almost a 4 out of 5 chance of hitting that live round, because now up to 70% of the drugs on the streets have that 2 milligrams or more of fentanyl, enough to cause the fatal overdose for a person that doesn't have that tolerance or addiction to opioids.
So, is this the recovery or the help that people can get? Is there new ways and methods that they bringing out, or is it just the same old treatment? Is it a different kind of treatment for fentanyl users?
It's the same. It's the same as any other opioid. It's just fentanyl is the new, if you want to put it that way, right? You had opioids like back in the 80s. It was just like it was meth, and it was heroin, and there's always something new that the world is combating, right?
Exactly.
When it comes to a new drug, but these drugs have been around forever, right? It is not a new form. There's by no means a new form. There is more acceptance when it comes to. It's
Fentanyl comes in liquid form.
Fentanyl can come in liquid form. It can come in liquid powder. It can come in spray. It just depends on the way that it's manufactured.
Think about any way a drug can be delivered.
Exactly. So it can come into any one of those forms. But when it comes to the recovery of that, it is. There's more acceptance, like I said, and we are now in a time which we are somewhat fortunate, but not enough, because there's still not enough community. There are not enough resources for everybody who has a substance use disorder. But we are looking towards the horizon when it comes to treatment for people with substance use disorder and opioid use disorder. So there's MAT treatment, which I mentioned earlier, which is medication-assisted treatment, which has your buprenorphine, it has your methadone, Suboxone, things like that to help people taper off, right? Because recovery isn't just abstinence-based. Like, harm reduction is meeting people where they're at. It's not just, abstinence-based. It's not just the 12-step program. If you have to be on methadone or Suboxone, that we will still accept you and you being in your recovery, because you are no longer using that choice substance, and you are using responsibly, and not using responsibly, in your recovery in a way that helps you build a different life outside of using that choice substance, right? And so there are more clinics, more doctors, hospitals are adopting medication-assisted treatment now. Before, it was just abstinence, right? You put someone in detox, have them go through detox, and then wait, and then they go into inpatient, outpatient, or sober living homes, right? But now assisted treatment is now being funded too to hospitals and clinics and stuff where they want them to have it, because they know, and we now treat it rather than a criminal justice problem as
That's what I was going to say. My next thing is
clinical problem.
Are there? Because they always say people on drugs shouldn't go to jail.
No.
So it's the same way with fentanyl. If you caught with fentanyl, you think most people shouldn't go to jail for
nonviolent drug offenses. That's really what it comes down to. It's a big scope of it, right? I mean, there's so many different ways that people can go to jail for something, whether it's stealing a donut from a donut shop, or dealing, selling, taking, ingesting, whatever you're, having possession of paraphernalia, all of that stuff, right? If you don't have people who are like, you wouldn't send someone to jail for having diabetes and eating cookies, right? Like that's kind of the analogy that you would want to put it when it comes to people who have co-occurring substance use and opioid use disorder. They have an illness. It is a medical illness. So if you were to say, oh, this person has diabetes, I watched them eat a whole cheesecake to themselves, and they absolutely shouldn't do that, are we going to start throwing people who eat cheesecake with diabetes in jail?
Well, it's like if a mom catches her son, he comes home, she says, oh, I think you're on these drugs, so you call the police on your child, and the police come get your child, and you got fentanyl on you, so that's 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, for them to go into jail, into the juvenile system.
To the juvenile system. So is this where they get their help in jail? Or
no, a lot of the time, no. To be perfectly honest, they are starting to get those things underway. There is MAT treatment in jail. There are different ways of handling it when someone is arrested and then thrown in jail or prison for something, whether it was violent or non-violent. They have programs within the jails now. They carry Narcan. They have MAT treatment. Like I said, you start to see drug and alcohol counselors now in jail, but it's still so few and far between. Like the care is starting, but we're not Yeah, we're not
'cause-
winning here, like with our method of how we are reaching recovery in any form.
Yeah,
at all.
because my main thing is most people, first thing they say is, oh, that person got to go to jail and they don't get no treatment and stuff like that. Or they'll go to jail, be in there for a couple of days, jail don't treat them, then they come back out and they're still the same.
They're still the same, or and that just because like I said, I can have a 10-day conversation with you about how we need different care for everybody who's using drugs, right? But they go in because they were arrested for whatever it was of their drug, anything, any kind of drug offense, right? We just put it that way. They go into jail, they come back out. They were detoxing in jail. They're gonna be fiending to go use more, and they're gonna come back out the same because they weren't ready to access recovery services, or even if they were ready, they weren't accessible in jail
That's
or
what
the
I'm saying.
kind
You
that
think
they
most
needed.
prisons up to date with all the
No,
treatments and stuff
no,
like
I'm not
that?
gonna.
So it's go ahead.
But there's a couple
Do you
of
think
things.
that there would be a law to be pushed so that
are.
that they could push to have access to
They're in place, and there are more coming into fruition. So it's. I've been in this journey for 10 years now. My boss 25, right? And in the time that I've been here and the time that she's been here, the years and years that you would see the changes, like Prop 3647, you know what I mean? Treatment versus incarceration bills, all of that. She's been doing this for 25 years. Every bill that was passed that she had tried to work on, 10 years in between. You know what I mean? 5 years, 7 years. It's not every election year this stuff's getting put onto the ballot. It's something that takes a lot of time. So there are things in place, though, by the way. So it's not that there's not at all.
There is something we need to talk about, though, as well. There are people that are getting high, and yes, it's against the law to possess drugs. The drug penalties have been reduced. A lot of those crimes now are misdemeanors, but there are also people that are high that are killing other people, whether they're driving a vehicle under the influence and they have a crash and they kill somebody, whether it's alcohol, drugs, over-the-counter medications, prescription medications. And then there are other people where we've got parents that are losing their kids, and they will say their child was poisoned from these fentanyl pills, and that is true. Their kids are dying oftentimes from one pill, where if it was a real pharmaceutical drug, they would not have died. And we need to look at how we address accountability there as well. And we've got different levels of what people are doing. Some people are dealing drugs to support their addiction, to be able to pay for drugs. Others are dealing drugs because it's all about the money. So where do we find the ability, the common ground for the parents whose child has died from a fentanyl poisoning that wants accountability, to the dealer that's selling just for the money, to the person that's selling because they have an addiction themselves? Where's the middle ground there?
I do have something to add to that, and it's somewhat different from what Bill is. We're on the same side, and there's so many different levels of harm reduction. We believe that there is a lot of things that are going around, like poisoning, and we have things that are on the front right now called drug-induced homicide laws. This is just me speaking. This isn't for Bill. This isn't anyone else, and this is just me speaking on these issues. Is if you're talking about poisoning implies a poisoner, and then there are people who are going after, like, if I was to give. If my child, right, I have 2 children that are in college right now. If my kid was to deal to someone else who was actually asking to buy a pill off of them, the parents are the last person to know, right? I'm like a young mom. My kids won't tell me anything. Like, they're not going to tell me, even if I was cool or quote unquote whatever, right? I'm the last person who's going to know that they had some substance or whatever they did, or they're partying and whatever, right? So if you're talking about poisoning, it implies that there's a poisoner. And this might be where, like, Bill and I would differ when it comes to the law and how we handle things like that. Drug-induced homicide laws and things that are putting people and holding people accountable, where we need to still, once again, and I will say this over and over again because it's a roundabout thing, comes down to how we aren't handling it from the beginning, though. We're chasing a boogeyman that doesn't really exist, and we're trying to find dealers. Dealers don't want to kill their clients. You know what I mean? We work on the street. I work on the street. They're not trying to go out.
You can't make no money off of dead
Yeah, you
people.
can't make money off of dead
But
people.
they are trying to get them addicted.
Because
they
then
keep
that
coming
keeps
back
that
and buying.
supply. Absolutely, that is absolutely true. But it's just like when it comes to trying to press charges on somebody, a 16-year-old boy who they had a transaction. It was a deal, right? And it was something that you did. I went to a store to go buy a pair of shoes that I couldn't afford, and I knew I bought that. That's a transaction that I made, even if I know I shouldn't have done that, right? and then they go, and then this person dies, and I'm charging that kid with murder, and they go to jail for life, you know. And so this is where the things vary. When once again, personally, I am on the side of not having these drug-induced homicide laws, but it still comes back to us having real-time things in place from the ground up for us to be able to have people not even get into these addictions or have drug dealers, you know, getting people addicted to stuff, and having the means and the support necessary for the people in our communities, which we already know. It's, you know, it doesn't discriminate. Substance use disorder does not discriminate, but it has waged a war on people of color, and, you know, disproportionately waged on people in underserved communities, right?
Yeah, because we was just talking in one of our podcasts, and Thomas was talking about how most of the drug dealers these days should be scared to be a drug dealer because they don't know what they're selling.
Yeah. If you don't know where it comes from, drug dealers, I work with a lot of people who deal drugs, you know, of course, and I meet them on the street. My staff and my volunteer team, they meet them on the street, and they're not, you know, like, they don't even know where it comes from, because even then it could come from 10 different people down a line, right? It's not just like, oh, I looked at Ray J and I got my stuff from Ray J. Ray J could have gotten it from 4 people before himself, you know? So they themselves are in their own predicament because they don't know where it's actually sourced from. So, you know, it's that I had to add that in only because I would like to give a perspective of a different end of, like, you know, the accountability, right? Because we also have accountability when it comes to not this, like, you know, we have street drugs, but then we also have safe prescribing practices, right? We are in an opioid settlement fund that is now supposed to go back to community things for the Sacklers, you know, right? Because they had overprescribed and had incentives for doctors to give out so much of a drug that they knew would get people addicted to it, and still kept going. And a lot of people died within that for them just to be able to profit. So it goes multiple ways. It's not just street drugs. It's also pharmaceutical as well.
My doctor think I'm crazy because I'm 55 and I won't take no pills. If it won't come to liquid form,
my husband's like that too.
I won't take it. Because I remember the time when I was about the 7th grade, and I was hanging out with my friends, and I guess pills was, I didn't, you know, I had just moved to another state, but I guess pills was the thing to do. So they crushed up the pill, then you supposed to snort it. And that's when I was like, I will never do this again.
Yeah.
And I don't know how people can do that, because, you know, you can, I guess if it been fentanyl, I probably would have died on my first trying to figure out something that I never wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, when people talking about the fentanyl and stuff like that with the pills. So I'm like, do they swallow the pills? Are they crushing them up, snorting? How are they? Because
Anyway,
you know, in the pandemic, there was a huge surge of kids because everyone was home, right? But then they would, of course, sneak out to go and meet their friends. And I had a bunch of parents who, I will not name the neighborhood they came from because they did ask me. And this was this was during the pandemic, but I do have to say, these kids were like meeting up for little parties, of course, sneaking out to see their friends. And then they would take pills from their parents' medicine cabinet. They'd throw them in a bowl. They were called Skittles parties. And then they would roll some dice, and then they would take the amount of pills inside the bowl. But during the pandemic, they also found out, because the internet is glorious and has all the information at your fingertips, that if you ingest something rectally and shove it up your butt, that you don't have to digest it. So they were, instead of taking pills orally, were taking things rectally because they don't have to digest it, and the high was better.
Internet doing too much.
So you can take it in any form. You can crush up that pill. You could take it orally. You can inject it. You can melt it down. You can water it down and inject it intravenously. Smoke it, snort it, gum it, whatever.
It scared me to death.
But we really have to understand something that's important here. It's the method of ingestion, how you take it into your body, can increase the risk for a fatal overdose. So let's talk about a real opioid pain medication from a pharmacy. Okay, the real stuff. It's got a protective coating on it to make it tamper-resistant, not tamper-proof. It's supposed to be taken orally into your digestive system. Depending on the type of medication, opioids, it's also going to be time-released. It might go anywhere from 4 to 12 hours to be slowly released into your body with that time release mechanism on it, and your liver is going to detoxify some of it before it gets into your blood. You take the same pill, you crush it up, now you snort it, you smoke it, you inject it, you've changed your route of administration into your body, and you've greatly increased the risk for a fatal overdose, because now you're getting all the drug at one time. No more time release, no filtering by your liver, and just changing that way as well. But we also need to make sure that people understand that even taking pills orally, you can overdose and you can die. And I want to talk quickly about an 18-year-old that died in July. And he took the pill orally. He wasn't with his friends, but they were communicating on social media. And his friends had warned him not to take the pill. And his response was, it's too late, I've already taken it. And the friends then made an error. They thought that after a little bit of time had gone by and he was still communicating with them on social media, that if he was going to overdose, it would have already happened. Not realizing that it also depends what's already in your stomach. If you ate a big meal, you got food in your stomach, it's going to take longer for that pill to get into your system. And what happened, unfortunately, is he died from an overdose that night. And he was at home. His parents were there, but they didn't know what had happened. And his friends made a choice to not say anything because they were afraid he was going to get in trouble from the parents. And he died as a result. So there's a whole lot that can be done if that mistake has been made before the overdose even hits. They can be going to the hospital. They could have their stomach pumped. Someone could watch and look for those opioid overdose signs and symptoms.
They don't get there to that point.
Yeah, have Narcan available. Be ready to do CPR. Be ready to make that 911 call. But all those things need to be known ahead of time. That's what's so important about educating the entire community about what we can do. And I want to say one more quick thing. Sometimes people are, despite the risks, are going to use drugs by themselves.
Yep.
There's no one there with them, especially now it's cold out and they're indoors, so they're outdoors and no one sees them.
Yeah.
There's a phone number they can call. It's Never Use Alone. I'm going to say the number. It's 1-800-484-3731. They don't have to give their real name. They want your phone number and where you're at. They're going to give you some information like to unlock your door, so first responders have to come there. They can get into your home wherever you're at or wherever place you're at. Person's going to use their substance. The operator's going to stay on the line with them, and then they're going to check in on them. And if they don't respond, they're going to send emergency services to that location for an unresponsive person. Now, a couple of things. One, if that person stopped breathing, there's no one there doing CPR. So then we're back to those brain cells dying. 4 to 6 minutes, by 10 minutes, they can be dead. And the paramedic response time, they got to get there, and then they got to find the person when they're there. But it's something better than nothing and using by yourself without a safety net there.
One thing I like to say is that gives me back to the street code of snitching.
Yeah.
Because if you with someone, like you said, the kids, they don't want to snitch. And I think that these kids these days with these fentanyl going on, they need to be aware that they need to speak up. Because they don't want to snitch. No one wants to tell on someone doing something wrong. And that's when a lot of people die, because a lot of kids don't want to snitch or they don't want to speak up and stuff like that. So I think it needs to be how I want to put it, snitch and save a life.
Yeah.
When it comes to fentanyl.
Well, the thing is, it's like on top of it, it's not even just about snitching. When it comes down to it, a lot of kids or even adults who might have their own issues that they have to deal with and not want to get in trouble again. Maybe they already had served time. They've gotten arrested multiple times for drug offenses, and they're not going to want to call 911 because they don't want to call 911 on themselves and get in trouble again.
Snitch.
Right? Yeah, they're snitching on themselves or someone else. Right?
Yes.
But that also dives deep down into stigma too,
There you
because
go.
they don't
That's what I'm
even
trying to-
want to
yeah,
talk about it. Like,
yeah,
they're stigmatizing themselves. They're creating roadblocks for themselves and their friends, for them to be, and their loved ones, for them to be able to reach that life-saving medication, to reach recovery, to reach whatever it is they need for this person to be revived. It's that stigma that people already are like, and you got people, no matter what neighborhood, you have people in prevalent neighborhoods who are not
No
calling
race
because
or
they
nothing.
don't want the ambulance showing up to their house, because the neighbors are going to be like, why were the cops in the ambulance at your house? So, people won't tell on themselves, and people will refuse
Let
to even
someone
go there.
die.
Yeah, they'll let someone die over
And I
it.
think the bottom line is, are you going to be okay with that person that might be a friend or someone you really care about, maybe a loved one, possibly dying because they can't make that call themselves right now. They're unconscious. They're not breathing.
Yeah.
They need someone there to do that. And that's where, when I talk with people that are going to use substances, this is something you really need to know before you start doing stuff with people is if something happens to you, does the person there have your back? Are they going to call? Because if they're not, you need to really rethink what you're about to do, because remember, you're unconscious. You're not going to call 911. You can't lift your arm. You can't move that box of Narcan. You can't get that device up. Someone else has to do that for you. So, and when we talk about that, I want to give you a quick example. We know that there are people that are afraid to call 911, and people have lost their lives because of that. And I have a friend who's lost 4 family members, separate incidences to opioid overdoses. And the most recent one was last May. And her brother had been released from custody. That's a high-risk population. If you're released from jail, prison, a drug treatment program, or if you've been in the hospital and your tolerance has dropped, You go back out and you use again at that same level you were using before. You'll give yourself too much and you'll overdose. He overdosed. His friends refused to call 911. They dumped him in an alley. They took him out of the house. They dumped him in an alley. They called her other sister. They said, here's where your brother's at. Come and get him. She begged them to call 911.
And they still don't.
They refused. And by the time she called 911 and she got there and they got there, it was too late for the brother. He had died. But he would have survived if they had made that call and someone had gotten there and given him Narcan.
Yeah,
And
or
so-
even just taking them to the
yeah,
hospital
so
themselves.
if
dump them at the
people
hospital.
aren't going to call, we talk about non-traditional first responders in that neighborhood. Who's got the Narcan and how can you get to that person? But again, the paramedics got so much life-saving equipment. And if you, some people are going to be revived and they're going to refuse against medical advice to go to the hospital. That's a bad idea because you may have fluid or vomit in your lungs and you're going to look at some nasty potential infections or complications to your breathing from that. So it's really important to get checked by a doctor afterwards. But remember, if you go to the hospital, you got a substance use disorder, you can enter into treatment, medication-assisted treatments available right in the hospital. Bridge programs get you started on that because opioid withdrawals are very painful.
Yeah, they're very, very severe.
And
people.
we have medications that can help with that. And it starts if you've overdosed, or even if you haven't overdosed, you can go in, as April talked about, all the different treatment options that are out there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of resources.
All right. Well, you know what, man, we ran out of time. Angie, would you like to ask them any highlighted questions?
No, I just want to also like bring up the point that having the Narcan around is not 100% guaranteed because if they took something else that, besides fentanyl, the Narcan is not going to
No,
pick it up.
it's not.
Narcan is
Right.
specifically made to help
Just
with the
Yep, opioids. Yeah,
opioid.
that's it.
opioid use.
There's, so that and the same with the fentanyl test strips. They may not detect everything that's there. I want to mention real quick 3 phone numbers for resources.
Exactly. I was going to say.
Resources here.
Resources, yes.
The Access Crisis Line, licensed clinicians 7 days a week, confidential, it's free. Number is easy to remember, 888-724-7240. So remember, 888, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, throw a 0 on the end. You've got 211 from any phone. We've got 988 for Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Again, lots of treatment locations here. And again, where you can get that Narcan for free. And in the regional county public health centers, lots of more resources there in the community. I'll give you some resources if you have a website you can put some stuff up on. And then just remember where that Narcan is at there. 2 more things. The Overdose Protection Law got updated January 1st. If you have a smartwatch on now and that watch is set up, if your pulse drops below a certain level, you're basically unconscious. The watch is going to make a 911 call for you. It's going to give your GPS locations on your phone. The law got updated now to say if your watch calls 911, it's going to be just like a person called with that overdose protection law. And if you have drugs that you suspect are adulterated or contaminated with fentanyl, you can turn them into a law enforcement officer or a public health agency, a public health department. No questions asked. You don't have to identify yourself. You don't have to identify where those drugs came from. And you can turn that stuff in so we can safely just have it disposed of there.
Stuff, yeah.
Right. Well, you know what, man? Sorry we ran out of time, but guess what? We would love to have you guys back, man. Cover some stuff that you guys haven't covered, And one more again, let our audience know where to find you guys, man.
A New Path. We are in Oregon Street in North Park. You can give us a call, 619-990-5800. That is my personal work phone. You could text me at all hours of the day. If I don't get to it that night, I will wake up the first thing in the morning and respond to you, let you know that you can get Narcan from me. And we are in 5 different places in the county. Like I said, please follow us on Instagram. We have all of that information there at a New Path Narcan Project.
Okay, William, why don't you let them know where to find you, buddy?
William Perno with Say San Diego. Our office is right on the 15 at Fairmont Avenue there, 43rd Street. And my email address, again, wperno, WPERNO, at saysandiego.org. We can go anywhere in the county and provide this training. I'll be going to a school tomorrow to train staff.
Okay.
I was training students last week. We go out to the community. We talk to sober living, people in treatment, all the different places. And between myself, April, and the Harm Reduction Coalition of San Diego, we're out there doing a lot of work in a lot of different populations. And please reach out. Please learn how to use naloxone. Please carry naloxone. If there's one wish I would make is that every home, every person have a box of Narcan. And
Absolutely.
it's really small device. It'll fit in a purse, fit in a backpack, whole bunch
Right.
of put it in a key ring, throw it in your lunchbox. You got it with you, and it saves lives.
Better to have and need and not have, or excuse me, have and not need, than need and not have.
Exactly.
And last question regarding that use. So it says you have in one box. There's 2 single doses. Do you have to use both doses?
You might not. You might need more.
So
So
we
we always
give it-
suggest for people that need more and they have people with opioid use disorder that know they have it to ask for more, and it will be given.
Okay.
So we're going to use one device. If we don't see any response after 2 minutes, we're going to switch to the other side of the nostril. Use a second device. Every 2 minutes, give another device. So if you have more than one box, we want to keep giving that until we see that signs of consciousness, signs of breathing from that person, signs of life. And if sometimes it's taken up to 8 doses for one person. That's 4 boxes of Narcan. So if you have more than one box, again, 2 minutes apart. And sometimes time's going to speed up or slow down in that critical situation. Have someone keep track of time for you, because you may think it's been 2 minutes, but it's only been 30 seconds. And want to make sure we wait that 2 minutes.
Yeah, we
between
don't want to
doses.
put them into precipitated withdrawal if you're loading them up with Narcan. So yeah, you want to wait that in between.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that being said, Adam, you gonna take us out of here, man? And like I said, you guys know where to find them.
I have one last thought.
Go ahead. Wrap it up.
I have learned today is that don't let no one get high alone. Save a life.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to call for help.
Okay.
There it is. There it is. There.
Yeah.
That's what we want to hear. Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thank you for
Yes.
having us.
Thanks you guys for
Thank
coming
you.
out.
See ya.
This was insane.